Okay, so last week we were talking about the importance of learning geography as it relates to history. Um, and I mentioned that one of the things you can do to memorize the various things on a map is to draw the map. Okay, but sometimes that can be a little bit intimidating. So what I want to talk about today is a kind of a cheating way to do it that still helps you think about where the relative positions are of the various things on the map, and that's tracing it. So let's do that. Okay, so here you see I have, this is the map, the original from the book, and this is the tracing I've made of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and trace it anew so that you can have a sense of how to do it. For myself, I'm going to use a fine tip Sharpie, and I print out a copy of the map I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and take that and put it under here. Okay, and you want to make it so that you're going to have to press down. Hopefully you can see on the camera the map coming through. Cameraman, can you see the map coming through the tracing paper? Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. And I should say, I'm not a professional artist, obviously. I'm not a map maker. I'm not good at drawing. But this activity should make that drive the point home that this is something that you can do too. So what you probably want to do first is you'll notice there are borders on the map. So you probably want to trace those first to give you a guide. So that's what I'm going to start out doing. Just lightly pulling it across. When you do stuff like this, you want to think, and I'm kind of dating myself here, you want to think about Bob Ross, you know? He was relaxed about painting. And if you don't know who Bob Ross is, everybody should know who Bob Ross is. Karen, you're shaking the table. Because Bob Ross made at least 2 generations in America love art. And made people feel that they could do art even if they weren't a quote-unquote artist. And that's kind of how you should feel about this. You shouldn't overthink it. Because really, even if you make a mistake, once you notice that you're making mistakes on the map, that means that you understand the relative positions on the map better. Because in order to know that you made a mistake, you have to know where something is, where the right place it should be, the place that it actually is, and what is the correct place for it. All right, so now I've made my border, and I'm just going to start in the upper left-hand corner. That's just more comfortable for me because my hand tends to move left to right. It doesn't really matter. But I do think you want to start on one of the borders so that you have a guide for yourself. All right, so I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to start on the Mediterranean Sea. And it's good to even kind of talk to yourself. I know that sounds funny, but if you say, as you're doing it, I'm starting on the Mediterranean Sea, that helps you memorize where it is on the map. This mark is a little fat, so I'm running out of space to write Mediterranean. All right, so now I have the Mediterranean. Now, if I look down here, I could go and do the Lebanon Mountains to the east, but I'm actually going to go down here and do the Red Sea next. And you'll notice, incidentally, that the Red Sea, this part of it here, is the southernmost tip of the Sinai Peninsula. So I'm going to write Red Sea. You don't have to be slavishly devoted to putting the labels in the exact same way. I mean, in the printed copy of this map, it's on a slant this way. That's because they're doing it with, printing it, and it might be easier, I guess, in that context. So, for this, it doesn't matter as long as it's legible. You can tell what is each thing. So here, now I'm going to go back up to the Lebanon Mountains. abbreviate mountains because I'm not going to put in these. You can see there are arrows here showing various resources that are coming into Mesopotamia. I'm actually going to leave those to the end. Right now I'm concentrating on seas, the Persian Gulf, mountains, and rivers, and cities. Okay? Oh, and this down here, this is the scale miles for the map. It's good to copy that because it gives you a sense visually of how many miles, this amount of space is, which is 300, which you'll see when you do this yourself. So now I'm going to start, at the topmost tip of the Euphrates, and I'm going to work my way down. And I hope you can see. It might be better if you come over my right shoulder and then zoom in right here. Is that better?
1 second. All right, we're good.
Okay. So I hope you can see that. So here I'm just bringing the Euphrates down. And just doing this, again, notice I'm reminding myself what I'm doing as I'm doing it. It sounds a little crazy, like you're talking to yourself, but again, it helps you to understand what each thing is. So that's the Euphrates. Okay? So now I want to do the Tigris. Mine's a little fatter because I'd actually prefer to hold it at this angle, but if I do that, it blocks your view out. So yours will probably end up looking better than this one because when I did the other one, I wasn't being filmed. So the Tigris comes down here. And it's okay to do, it's good, not only is it okay, but it's good to do more than one because the more times you do it, the better you'll learn it. So that's the Tigris River. And then notice that both of these empty out into the Persian Gulf. So I traced the northern border of the Persian Gulf first. It really is just about what works for you. And how do I define works for you? What I mean by that is whatever gets you to copy it with a reasonable degree of accuracy so that you're learning where the things are. And see, I made a mistake there, but that's okay. Okay, so that's the Persian Gulf. Okay, so now I'm not done with all the geographic features. We also have the Caspian Sea toward the northeast. Sheesh. You know, most people forget to dot their I's. I forgot to I my dot. I wrote my dot first. All right. Then we have a little body of water over here. And then to the east of the Tigris, we'll see that there's the Zagros Mountains. So we want to put those in. So that's important. We'll see that there's a tributary of the Tigris coming through them to the east. Go ahead and put that in if you hadn't already. All right, so now I'm going to write Zagros Mountains. And all right. And so now I want to put the cities in. So if you look closely here, here's Kish, as we've been discussing. Nippur. Adab. And you can play with different things. Again, like my Sharpie might be a little fat. You can play with a thinner pen. It doesn't really matter. It's totally up to you. So there's Uruk, there's and there's Eridu. Okay, so now we have the cities. Now the last thing we want to put in are the various different resources that are coming from different parts. So we have this arrow here, this dotted arrow. We have wood coming from the Lebanon Mountains. We have stone coming from the southwest. Down here in the, I forgot to put these mountains in down here, but you have Copper Mountains here. And believe it or not, there's copper coming from there, going into Mesopotamia. So what this is showing us is that these different resources were coming into Mesopotamia as a center of trade during the period that we're studying. Over here we have lapis lazuli, obsidian, and wood. Lapis lazuli, obsidian, and wood coming from the north. And then roughly from the northeast, we also have lapis lazuli and stone. Just make sure you don't have a fidgeting cameraman hitting the table while you're doing yours, and you'll be fine. All right, so there's my trace. Again, so why don't you go ahead and do one of those and bring it, have it ready to show me in class tomorrow. Okay? All right.